Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Me and Paranormal You with Karen Rontowski. I am your guest, Ryan Singer.
Congratulations.
We did it. 800 plus episodes, 11 year. We're in year 12 now. I don't understand how it's been this long, but what is time, right?
400 of those episodes are me.
Yes, that is why you are the official host of the program now. Although we have, I mean, it is you and I operate in such a different way. Like you're so like prepared, and you've got your pod like so far in advance, and I'm like, I'm gonna put this up tomorrow, Karen. Um, and not to mention, you and I have been for years talking about doing our own pod. We can talk about that later, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
should actually just do it, even if it's like a 12 episode season. You know what I
That's
mean?
yes. And that, well, you'd be like, when do we do it? And I'd be like, Tuesday. I'd be like cracking the whip. It's an odd reverse because I read one of my astrological aspects. I looked it up one day and all it said was freedom at any cost. And I thought that's how I am. Like, I need to not have to think about doing a podcast or setting up. I have to be free.
Yeah. I mean, that's also I feel like I also love freedom at any cost. And then I'm like, oh shit, I need to have a podcast tomorrow. I've been too free. Um, we were talking a little bit beforehand, but and obviously, there's all kinds of things we can discuss. I mean, the world of the paranormal, um, I think maybe what I want to really get into today with you and hear your thoughts about this, the world of I have an episode coming out Friday that I'm calling. So this will come out the day before. I'm calling It's All Real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are rapidly, even quicker than I thought, potentially entering a reality where everyone soon enough, by mid 2026, I think probably at the latest, will just understand everything's real, and everything that was kooky and wild and woo woo is actually real. And I think there's a lot of people who are prepared for that, and a lot of people who already don't just believe it, but they already know it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sensing, just because you do so much work with people and with your amazing tarot practice, are you getting the sense that more and more people, even more so than a couple years ago when the Great Awakening seemed to be happening? You're right, but now it just seems like, are the floodgates open?
Well, they are for some people, but I what I feel like is so I think we're shifting into it, and it's almost like everyone is uncomfortable in their body right now. They don't know what to do, and they're kind of, and I feel like that's a different like human frequency that we haven't had before. So sort of, they're, I don't even know that they're really thinking about magical powers or telepathy, although people are really having extraordinary experiences. But I think right now we're at the level where everyone's like, something is wrong. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know what level of panic to be at. I don't know. Um, the,
And
the, or what's that?
and I was gonna like, that is what I'm thinking of magic. I didn't know if you meant the world, because I the world is off. The world is like, because I know I am very conspiracy oriented, and I have yet to see a few of these. A lot of these conspiracies are just fact now. They just happen.
Well, yeah, conspiracy theory. Some conspiracy theories actually just become conspiracies
Mm-hmm.
if they're proven to be true. And now it's, I feel like certain people are doubling down on their choice, even in the face of evidence that would prove otherwise. That's not something uncommon that people do. That's just human behavior. Whether it's your cult leader has predicted the end of the world, it doesn't happen. Half the cult leaves, half of them double down. That's just been proven through studies. So, I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of a silly animal in that way. Um, but I do feel like when it comes to people embracing the magic that is inherent inside of them, that is going to be even supercharged on a level here in the next couple of years. But I think you're right, and I don't know if this is the birthing process, the painful birthing process. Like when you're talking about we don't feel comfortable in our bodies, do you think it's because more and more people are realizing that these bodies are actually just kind of very tiny containers for an enormous mass of consciousness?
Well, I think there's a couple of things going on, which is the outside world is destroying itself. Okay. And I do kind of feel like that. In fact, I kind of, I'm trying to gear this. I feel like there's four answers in that question. And I think we are in the painful birthing process. And part of this process is for us to learn to stand on our own 2 feet. That a lot of beliefs that we were attached to, and this is going to sound, I don't mean this pessimistically, but one of the beliefs that we were, and I'm really not getting political here, was that there's justice, there's karma, you do good things happen, you save your money, you retire, all that. All those things are getting blown up as the world kind of, and what we're trying to learn is all you have is your heart and your energy and what you can do with that. But I do feel like no one is comfortable with what it feels like right now. Very few people.
Yeah, I think very few people is you nailed it. And it's funny because I just recorded an episode before we were talking, and I talked about I was kind of something similar because my thought on that is that there's a lot of people who realized that hey, I played the game the way it was supposed to be played, and I'm still pissed off, and I'm upset.
Mhm.
There's no prize at the end of this game that I was told of happiness. And I think that's why you find so many strangely angry rich old people.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, why are they so angry? Right? They won. They've got the money. They're drinking bottles of wine every night for dinner in their retirement for the next 15 years. And they're pissed off.
Hmm.
And it's like, why are you pissed off? You've got everything that, you think, but I think it's because they realize like, oh, I'm still not happy though. But this was what I was told I was supposed to do to have this great life.
Yeah, and I was supposed to drive that car. And I was supposed to, all that stuff is nil and void now. That we kind of get it. It's funny because I'm getting different messages in my reading, and when I do a separate podcast for my Patreon, and sometimes if the week has the same message over and over, I put it out. And the message this week was, because everyone wants to know their passion. Where's my passion? Where do I find my passion? And this week I was clearly, I feel crazy. I was clearly told to say, um, and I don't even get told, I don't think it downloads and stuff. I just feel like I start talking and information comes out and I go, who's saying that? Who's promising these things? Um,
Who is making these promises?
who's
Who
saying
is
this?
writing these checks that I will have to cash?
A lot of times too in a reading, when something comes back so fast, I'll go, and you can call me for a 15-minute follow-up if this doesn't happen. Like I go, I'm going to double down on this. And I almost never hear from them. But I feel like all you want to look for now is passion, not a passion, not your passion. If passion comes when you're out bowling with your friends, do that. If passion comes by cooking a good meal, do that. Everybody wants a label and a specific, and we're moving away from that.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, when it comes to, I think what you're describing, it sounds like a recipe for living in the moment of your life.
Yes, in fact, Ryan, um, there's two things that I think have happened, and this is a little bit of why everyone is so angry. I think America was taught, or maybe everywhere, there was also kind of a carrot that was always in front, and you were always going for that carrot. And all of a sudden, the carrot was gone, and no one knows what to do with themselves. And the carrot was the future. What do I want from the future? I want another job. I want a better job. I want a boyfriend. I want a girlfriend. And the carrot was removed, and everybody's like, what do I do now? And I was saying about dating, because cults start when people have been isolated and then they want to be part of a group. So a few years ago, I was like, watch the cults come up, watch the behavior coming up, it's coming. and which I think there's a big Christian cult. Anyways, that's a little conspiracy. It's my conspiracy, but I feel like we're on the edge of like some weird Christian takeover. But when people are dating now, it's not going to be, I saw that person across the room and our eyes locked, or I knew it right away, or I got the chills. It's going to be sit down, turn your phone off, and be present with this person. And that is how people are going to mate and fall in love. In the last, I would probably say 2 years, very few people I read for have called and said, I just met someone. And it's just, there's something about everyone being isolated in their energetic body change that now we have to do everything differently. But this, what am I supposed to be running at? There's nothing in front. I think it's making people like, what do I do?
Yeah, and we're going to take a quick. I want to pause real quick because we have to throw in some commercials here. But we're going to come back and I want to talk about that more about some of the big changes that are happening and just the way we're going to be living our lives, and they're already happening here with her, you love her, Karen Rontowski, paranormal
Hat maker Karen
Karen.
Rontowski.
Uh, we're going to be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. By the way, $3 a month, no commercials ever. I don't think when it comes to I'm not someone who wants to avoid politics.
Okay.
And, I'm not apolitical by any stretch of the imagination. But, and I do think that it plays into, politics have made themselves more dominant than many other things. It seems to be a more important aspect for people, especially when it comes to like dating and looking for people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be compatible with someone who was, I don't even know if I'd be compatible with someone who was moderate, who didn't seem to lean one way, like, and I'm not saying Republican or Democrat. I mean, I'm a, pretty much a hardcore socialist, but
I'm a lefty, but yeah.
you have to approach, I mean, what is life, right? And, life is more complicated than I'm left or I'm right. And,
Yeah.
the other things come into play, right?
And there's, it's kind of funny because, and there is the conspiracy that they're splitting us, but I don't even know what to say to that because, um, I live in, hardcore Trump place, the nicest people in the world. I don't even know what to tell you. They'd do anything for me, but I can't compute. I can't date. You know what I mean? Like and I would help them. So it is like that. But I think it's funny because there's these really big general conspiracies that I have trouble with. But then I see them come true. Okay, I'll just say it this way. With what's going on with Gaza now, I knew that Netanyahu wanted that land. I I will even say I knew those Israeli fighters on October 6th, the longest it takes them to get from where they are to defend that line was 15 minutes. The shortest time was 2 minutes. And they left him there for hours. And I immediately, there's very few things where like my psychic thing was like, I knew Netanyahu wanted that land. And they kept saying, no, you're crazy and you hate the Jews or whatever. And I don't hate the Jews. In fact, most of the Jewish people are trying to remove Netanyahu. But now with him and Trump standing there, we're going to turn it into a resort. I'm like, I'm just keeping my mouth shut because, if I say, I guess I said it here, but I that part of the conspiracies, I'm like, we all kind of knew that's what they were doing. Is there a grand conspiracy for the world and the music artists that are doing satanic rituals? That I don't know. That's too big for my head.
Yeah,
But
I don't ever really buy into the satanic ritual music artist thing. And it's, but with everything that's going on with Gaza and Netanyahu and Israel, it is, and there are people chomping at the bit to drink, to have mixed drinks on patios paved over the bones of children. And
yeah,
this is what I think we're talking about when we come to, there's a difference between hatred and righteous anger. And people who have hatred typically are launching from like a place of racism, of misogyny, of transphobia, of homophobia, or whatever it is. And righteous anger stems from people who have been unjustly persecuted,
Mm-hmm.
have been, killed, acts of genocide have been perpetrated against them. And so for me, like we got to, I try to make a very clear decision to not conflate anger and or righteous anger and hatred. Hatred can lead to anger and those things, as we know, but they're much different. And the people who are celebrating such an event,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder, like, what is it about them? And what, why are they so angry, or why are they so hateful filled and sad, and why does that give them pleasure in some weird way,
Yeah, there's
to see
plenty of
things
beach
like that?
resorts. You don't have to, we don't need one there. We don't need to
Yeah.
get, yeah, it's, that's the part. There was a very interesting woman I heard on a podcast, and she said she was talking to an atheist once about God, and she said the guy got very upset because she said, maybe you don't have a soul. And he got, but you know what? We never think that. Maybe some people don't have a soul. Maybe some people don't have as much of a soul, but it feels like, it's almost like why I think the United States is going to kind of crash is because people need to be uncomfortable. We're not uncomfortable. Does all your stuff come from little kids making it in China? I don't know. How do I, you know what I mean? Like nobody wants to take that next step. I know people give me a lot of um, crap for being vegan, but it's, and I don't think everyone should be vegan. I think everyone should do what they do. But that was one of the spaces where I took the choice to find out more, and this will be my thing. You might be a guy that recycles everything. Everybody doesn't have to be perfect to do everything. I'm saying this was one thing for me, but it's almost like that eating in a fancy restaurant and hearing something bad happen to someone, and a homeless person gets hit out on the street, and you just finish your wine and go, well, that's too bad. I hope they close the curtain. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's so funny you're talking about like the uncomfortableness, and you may be doing things. There's a gym here in my neighborhood that I joined, because exercise. I've realized that exercise is very important to my happiness. And if I can't get outside because of all the smoke and the toxins in the air in Los Angeles, it's like a bomb was dropped on the city, and
Oh,
people are just running around with no masks on. It's I'm a little paranoid about that, and I still won't go play pickleball. I still haven't hiked. I won't do that right now, and so I have to go to the gym. Hopefully they have some decent filtration, but and just do like the treadmill or something. Anyway, there's a guy there. There's a homeless guy there in the parking lot almost every night, and I've taken myself to. I now know him a little bit, and he's this older guy, and he's got like long white hair and a white beard, and I don't know how old he is. I'd guess maybe in his 60s, and his name is Claus. Right? His name is Claus. And every time you see him, he will say, do you have any recyclables for the Earth's helper? He's like, we have to do something about the resources of the Earth. If you have any recyclables, the Earth's helper will take them. He calls himself the Earth's helper. And I need to know your name because I see you. I've seen you here before, and um, I need to know what you need. Like if there's anything I can do. So he likes arugula, turns
oh.
out. So there's a Ralph's grocery store right on the other side of the parking lot. So I will pick him up arugula. He's just a homeless guy who won't eat meat, who's he's recycling. Every night of his life, he's collecting recyclings from who knows where. He is uncomfortable by most people's standards of what comfort is. I'm guessing he doesn't have a home. He has a cell phone, but it doesn't have. It's not working right now. So I got his number. He's like, just some people will just alert me when they've collected a bunch and give it, and then So I'm like, okay, let me do that. And like, he could be fucking. This could be Santa Claus.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He
And
looks like Santa Claus. His name is Claus. He'll even tell you, because I called him Klaus, and he goes, no, it's Claus, like Santa. He corrected me.
you know what's actually kind of that I always wonder this, like I always want there to be homeless shelters where people can go and everything is good, especially homeless teens, have something. But there's a part of like, did he make that choice? Because a guy like that could probably be happy. Like he's like, I don't want, the other day I was looking at
He
in
seems
Nashville,
happy, by the way, when
right? He might be happier than all of us. The other day I was looking at houses in Nashville and I thought, I could buy a house here. And then I thought, but then I'd have a house. And who do I call if the toilet breaks? So it wasn't even like this, oh, look at this joy. It immediately turned into, what's happening? So he might have a little of that in him and just be like, nobody bothers me. The weather's fine. You never know. And he actually has a mission.
yeah, he has a mission. He seems um now granted he could be putting on a face, right? But he seems relatively content. And because I ask and I because I'll ask him and I maybe see him once or twice a week, right? But
Mhm.
and I'm no like saint, you know. Um it's very convenient for me to just like basically go to the other side of the parking lot and maybe get a sandwich or something for him because I just don't have like cash on me to like I'm not and I so it's like usually my line is if someone's asking me for money and I'm in a spot I'll just be like I don't have any money can I
Nobody
get you a
carries cash.
sandwich do you
Yeah.
need a like or something to eat or something right but um it just seems like it's easier because no one has cash anymore but it's like he seems happy. He doesn't have maybe it's because of the lack of attachment.
Yeah.
Um and I'll ask him, I'm like, what else do you need? What else, is there anything? I mean, because I can't do much for people, but and he's like, no, it's just that, no, just recycles, man. Just recyclables. Just and I'm just like, are you sure? And he's just recyclables. And it's like he wants for nothing, it seems like, right?
Hmm.
Now I know very little about this person,
Right.
obviously.
So, but there is a difference also between a drug addict who can't clean up and someone who like has kids and doesn't want to be on them. There's a lot of variations, but that is an interesting example of somebody that is, like I said, is probably more content than the rest of us.
Yeah, and it feels like they've broken through the paradigm of obsessively seeking comfort. And like you said, I do think the systems are crashing. And for whatever reason, why now? I don't know. It for me, it's very interesting at the least that with the seemingly slow churning wheels of disclosure happening, even though it's in the last couple of years, you could say it's exponentially faster than the previous 80 years. There's something going on,
Mhm.
and I don't get into I moved away from conspiracies years and years ago because of uh, for various reasons, but there is the conspiracy about the fake alien invasion that seems to be the major message being put out there by like people like Dr. Stephen Greer and even Werner von Braun on his deathbed. Um, that people
And,
are
and
trying to
and
get
you
out there and like, don't let them fool you. Don't let them convince you that aliens are evil and that they're going to attack because they won't. But because we've reverse engineered these UFOs to be indistinguishable from them now and even have created these creatures that look like aliens that are basically essentially robots to make it look like it to seize total control of the planet.
now, do you believe there's no evil aliens?
Mm. I am inclined to believe that there's no evil aliens. Yes.
Okay. I am skeptical, very skeptical.
I think I mean you hear a lot about the reptilians or whatever, right? But I am if I had to like if I was forced to bet every dollar I had on one side or the other, and those two sides were most aliens are good, but there's one that's really bad, or there's no evil aliens. I would bet all of my money on there's no evil aliens. I wouldn't even say there's one. Now, I'm influenced obviously by the things I consume, and the things I consume are the messaging is very clear that there's no evil aliens out there. I think it's human beings projecting things about ourselves onto these things that they call the reptilians or whatever, right? I That's my personal belief. I could be wrong, but I don't believe there are.
Well, I also believe that there's a evil is a big word. Evil is not the word I wanted. Because even when people are abducted and they are doing painful experiments on them and stuff like that, they are not evil. They are doing what we do to animals. You know that like
For
there
sure.
are bad experiences that they may not intentionally be wanting to hurt us, but
Well, there's a large contingent of people who would tell you, and now whether or not it's true or not, I'm not here to pick a side, that all of the alien abductions are man-made and made to be, they are portrayed to be aliens by human they
okay.
are human origins, and these are with reverse engineered alien craft that are indistinguishable from actual et craft. They are people that either have had, and this is me quoting or paraphrasing Dr. Greer when he talks about this, after 35 years of talking to whistleblowers and special ops people and stuff like that, they would recruit and find people who were very short or had deformities, and they would enlist them and pay them a bunch of money, and they, or whatever, and they would get them and they make them appear to be aliens. And we have this technology that's hundreds, if not thousands of years more advanced than what we realize. And they are doing the cattle mutilations, all the animal mutilations, all of the abductions. None of that is being done by actual ET or by aliens,
Okay, it's
and
interesting.
it's all part of the long plan to seize control with this fake alien invasion, so people will be scared. And there's stories about people having radiation poisoning from encounters with UFOs. Actual UFOs don't need nuclear power to actually run, because they run through some kind of electromagnetic power. So you know that if someone gets sick as a close encounter with a UFO, it's because it was a man-made, reverse-engineered, built craft to look like a UFO that actually
Well,
has a nuclear power on it.
that's something I thought was kind of funny about the drones when they were saying, are they UFOs? And I was like, why is it they had the quiet UFO that no one heard and they went back to the loud UFO? I was like, why did they need the noise? Is it like a Prius when the Priuses kept hitting blind people because they were so quiet?
Right? Yeah, I don't know if like how all that shook out. Apparently part of that was just like a display of like just a little showing their card a little bit, like, hey, we can do like this. Here's an example of what we can do. We can fly all these things over, and by we I mean it's like this shadow government. It's like a transnational, so it's not just the United States, it's like this worldwide transnational government
The
that has
drones,
been.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was.
so
I have a friend that works at the Pentagon, and she was kind of saying this is like a company. It's not us, but it is us because we license them to do that. Blah blah blah. I feel like that. She said no. She's been working at the Pentagon for years. She disagreed with me on this, but I think that's what martial law will look like if we're ever put under martial law.
oh, from the sky and the ground, right?
Yeah, because
And
she
yeah.
said she was saying, no, don't worry. If they want to do martial law, it's not gonna like. I was like, yeah, it's too big. And she's like, no, no, no. If they want martial law, they're gonna have martial law. But I thought that is more intimidating. A thing like that flying outside my window. I thought,
Yeah, and you also, and I always try to keep in mind too that we're talking about people, right? And they can't enforce martial law unless the cops and the soldiers like are somehow convinced that this is what needs
mm-hmm.
to be done, and people will think for themselves up to a certain, at some
I
point,
I hope
some
you're
point
right
people
on that.
will. At some
I
point people will. And there's
I
also too many of us. There's too many of us. There's billions of us.
That's what I thought. But you know what? I have to say, I don't know that people will think for themselves. I was, there's this really interesting lady that writes about cults, and she was in the in the military. And she said, they are not supposed to, you're not supposed to be shooting at citizens. You're not supposed to be shooting at your own, they're not going to shoot at us. But everything I think, again, I really want to say up is down, down is up. Could happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get into, okay, well, we got to do another quick little break here.
Okay, I'm going to go get another drink. I'll be right back.
Okay, you go get a
It,
drink and
it's
we'll be
pom
right
juice.
back. um And just as a reminder, you can go to patreon.com/Ryan Singer and $3 a month, no commercials ever. And we're going to be right back with the one, the only Karen Rontowski. And we are back. We are back. We got elixirs of the night happening now. Um, what there's something interesting that I was thinking about last night as I couldn't sleep and like 4 in the morning. Sometimes when I'm sleeping, I'm like, um, I gotta clear my brain out. But um,
Boy, that is one thing I have no trouble sleeping.
really, I I've
Even if
never
I
been
wake
able
up,
to fall asleep easy.
oh my God, I have a suggestion for you. Even if I fall asleep and I have to go to the bathroom 10 times, the minute I hit the pillow, bam. This is the weirdest thing. As you couldn't tell, I was a big TikTok fan. Have you seen the mouth tape?
The what?
Mouth tape.
Is this like tape that goes over your mouth?
So it goes over your mouth. You can breathe through it if you had to, but it keeps your mouth closed when you sleep, so you're only breathing through your nose. Unbelievable sleep.
Really? I mean, I have a deviated septum, so sometimes my nose breathing is a little difficult for me.
You might Google that, but and it's great because if somebody breaks into your house and they are going to kidnap you, they see the tape and they're like, "Oh, someone's already here." I'll,
I knew I was
but
getting set up for something.
let me tell you, it's the greatest. There's something about mouth breathing that but you can breathe through it if you had to. So I don't think you'd choke to death. It's not, you can take it off if there was an issue.
Okay, well, obviously you've been using it, so you don't
Yeah,
choke to death because you're unless I'm interviewing the ghost of
it could be.
who knows at this point. There's some interesting things too I'd like to get your opinion on. There seems to be, along with disclosure with the UFO disclosure that's happening, there seems to be disclosure of other things, kind of. Um, I've got a theory, a working theory, and I wonder what you think.
Okay.
UFO disclosure is happening now, which involves ETs, aliens, other civilizations, either interdimensionally or extraterrestrial, ultra terrestrial, etc. For me, that's, I think for a lot of people, what would be considered the big one. But in reality, I think the true big one of disclosure would be the immortality, for lack of a better word, of consciousness,
Hmm.
and that physical death is not actual real death. And a slightly smaller one from that would be interdimensional beings, which are actually being disclosed kind of not on accident, but as like side dishes to these main dishes that are coming out. They're actually kind of. Oh, and by the way, yeah, this thing too.
By the way, the
Um,
fairies are real.
exactly. Essentially, yes. I mean, I just listened to a podcast last night where they're talking about, if this tubular device that can reach a certain frequency that can actually like grab and bring in creatures from other dimensions or wherever they are into the 3D space of the room of the lab, and they'll look like something grabbed out of the ninth ring of hell, apparently, and it'll start
Wow.
running around the room because they were able to reach a certain frequency with this device that like it's like almost like interdimensional fishing or something, right? Anyway, but not that they were even trying to do it necessarily,
I
but
hope not. We don't need that. Sounds like a bad movie.
right. So what do we think about the disclosure of ETs and extraterrestrials? I think for most thinking people, that's kind of an afterthought of like sooner or later, yes, any reasonable person would know that we're probably not alone in the universe. Now, when it comes to the implications with, psychic work and all these other things with these other disclosures, I mean, what does that mean? Like, do you think, like, does it, does someone like yourself who does this work, do you become like, is it essentially like as normal as seeing a 7-Eleven on the corner?
Well, yes. Well, I've always had this like where other people were afraid to say stuff. I've always had this thing like, I can't believe you don't believe in elves. I can't believe, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you're the freak. That's how I've always been. But I really think I stem this all back probably to the Catholic Church or a religion. because I think when you introduce, like, this is, I still am making this prediction. All these celebrities that are going over to baptisms and the lakes and this and that, they are going to have a fake alien thing, and then they're going to go, oh my God, who has the answers, who has the Catholic Church? They're going to point you towards God. They're going to get everybody back under that control, because we know when you control people's sexuality and their thoughts, you control them. And I still feel like this Christian movement or this Catholic movement, that's exactly what they're doing. The Vatican has so much information on UFOs that people don't talk about. And the Catholic, I watch a lot of these exorcists that are interviewed, and they will say, oh, they would find me, you know, blasphemy or Jezebel or whatever. I love that name, Jezebel, by the way.
Great name.
But they would come after me. Now, there is, the Catholic Church has a patron saint of psychics and mediums. His name is Agabus, which is really weird, because when I was a little kid, the first word I made up that I would say all the time, and people would make fun of me, is I kept walking around going, Busagasa Bus, Busagasa Bus. And then I go, do they have a saint for mediums? And it was Agabus. And I was like, was I trying to say that as a little kid? But the Catholic Church, that will tell you I'm wrong, has a patron saint of mediums and psychics. So already there's another one of their conflicts right there. Also, I think if you are to say there's only demons, we're going to keep the demons from you, we're going to tell you how to keep these guys away, you're going to listen to them. But if there's so much going on and so many real things, they're not going to be able to control us. I don't get the follow up to that. In other words, I guess the follow up is that, like the Matrix, we're all a battery for something that's actually hooked to us that we can't see. I can't really get there, but I don't, like, to me, I don't understand why the Catholic Church or any church wants to control us all. But that's where I see that is still the core problem. There is a huge move towards Christianity now that is going to be the same thing. I don't, am I making any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I liken it to, and I've seen other people say this, and the more I, observe and watch and see the unfoldings, it's like we're moving, like specifically this country is moving into a Christo-fascist state.
Yes. Yeah.
And they whether it's, and this is an interesting name that I just can't believe keeps getting brought up. And it's maybe it says more about me than anything else, but I just can't believe that this guy's name is even brought up when, like, and they even got blah 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 blah, Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's
and they're
weird.
like, because I mean, it's happened twice now where they're like, they even got Tucker Carlson believing that all aliens are demons, and I'm like, Tucker Carlson is why are we even bringing him up, right? But anyway, yeah, because there's people who are going to frame it all as demons, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, and I do think that the way we're moving now, like you said, or this reinvigoration of um it almost feels to me like the death cries of a dying beast.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel like this whole Catholic and Christianity thing is, and it still has the grip on a lot of people, which is mind-blowing to me, as well, as someone who was raised in all that. I don't understand how people are here for it, even
And
after all the craziness with the priests and all this kind of shit. And it's like, how can you defend this stuff? But
I think I can answer that. And this is what separates us, especially as comedians, from the rest of the world. It's easy. It's easy for that guy to tell me what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to philosophize about it. It's easy. And then if it then this is where we're also creating shame. This is where we're creating shame. So because then you're not, but I really think it's just easy.
yeah, I mean, it's easy. Like if someone else is telling you what to do, or how you're supposed to do or what you're supposed to think about when you're what should inform all your decisions. then you don't have to take responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
personal responsibility for any of your actions, because I'm just doing what I believe is right because of what I've been told is real. And we all obviously probably operate under some kind of influence of that to a certain degree. But I agree with you 100%. There's it is interesting that agree and degree are similar words, but
Yeah. And I don't
the
even
yeah
believe that's the whole world. Like, I think in the UK or in Australia, people are, they're not perfect, but they're brought up a little more. Um, you're supposed to think about that. You're supposed to question that. Like, we were supposed to question authority. My father was like, every politician is a liar. Don't believe any of them. Like, he was just a diehard, this is all bullshit. And thank God he was like that. And I feel like that set me up to question authority all the time. Rontowskis hate authorities. Polish people hate authority. I don't know how there's a Polish military. This was one of my favorite things I ever read about Polish people. They said this guy after the war, he got off the train in Warsaw, and the first thing he saw was a sign that said, "Selling bread in this area is punishable by death." And right underneath the sign was a woman selling bread. And I feel like that, I was brought up to be like, wait, everybody, wait a minute. Why are you, I don't, what is your source on this? And which is odd because I do believe a lot of conspiracies more so than I believe any politician. But I don't think people want to ask.
yeah people don't want to ask because they don't want to know the answer.
Yeah. What if
um
the answer is you have to do it or you have to decide?
yeah, and there's some talk about like, well, wouldn't the alien invasion just be nice and we could let them fix everything? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's the same way I thought about Bernie Sanders. It's like you can't, we've talked about this before, we can't have other people, we're always looking outside of ourselves for a savior or someone to do the action.
Mhm.
And that can't, and then you look at people who actually do take action, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but um I was reading something today about USAID was like an integral foundation in taking down the apartheid in South Africa.
I think that
and
was, yeah.
and ironically, Elon Musk, whose family was a part of that, is going after to dismantle USAID currently as we speak right now. Which I thought, oh, well, that's, if nothing else, that's a happy coincidence, right? Conspiracy theory, but
Mhm.
but to at the end of the day, when we're dealing with all of this stuff, it can seem overwhelming, right? And it can seem too
Yeah.
much. And but I think at the heart of the message here that we were talking about earlier, with the falling down of all these systems or games that were being played, and everything, kind of the illusions being dismantled, it's it should be, that should be an empowering message for people, that whether it's the passion aspect, um the power that is inherent in all of us, right? And do we think that the really kind of finding that passion lights up that power?
Yeah, I think it does because this is what I encourage everyone to have. It's what I feel like I got with comedy and with tarot and sometimes with art, which is you have to have one thing that you love that no one can take away from you, whether that is watching comedy or making art or jogging. If you can just get one thing you love that no one can take from you, I feel like that empowers you.
I love that idea.
It's funny too because there's this, we're in the paranormal metaphysical world or whatever. I so I watch all these Nazis now that are out, and I just keep thinking, did I miss this? Like, why is this all of a sudden?
What
This is
yeah,
okay. Like,
yeah,
even
let's
site.
let's actually put a pin in that,
Okay.
because we got to take another break. We're
Okay.
gonna be right back here in a few seconds. If you're on Patreon, we'll be back in like 5 seconds. But if you're not, we'll be right back after this short break. Just hit that fast forward button. That's a pro tip. Hit it a couple times and boom boom, you're back to the chat. And we'll see in a second. Okay, we're back with Karen Rontowski. We're talking about what happened. Why are all these Nazis running around and so proudly? Uh,
Yeah, and I mean, I get every once in a while, well, especially here where I live, somebody that I never suspect will make like a racist joke or something, and I'm like, what? Why? How is that even a part of you? Like, and you know, it was something they hid until they felt comfortable enough to say it to me, and I'm always like, that's not what. Like, my mind is always blown. Like, I don't want to walk around and figure everyone's racist, but then all of a sudden you're like, you said that? That's funny to, but the it's almost like it is the whole Elon Musk thing and the like there's a lot of parts coming together that I go, is that the conspiracy? Is that what is that?
we're getting our answer in real time how Nazi Germany could happen.
I think you're right.
When
I
you're
think
like, oh, how could all of this, how could that ever get to that level? And then the people who used to ask that question are now saying Elon Musk wasn't doing a Nazi
yeah.
salute. He wasn't doing that twice. Um, he's not supporting a far right neo-Nazi political party in Germany. Those are, he's not dismantling the company that took down
You're
apartheid in South
ridiculous
Africa.
if you think that.
You're
You're
yeah, oh the
ridiculous.
woke. This is my one of my favorite things. The woke liberal mob crying. It's my favorite thing. And so it's like, okay, so when you hear someone say hate language, you take pleasure in watching people emotionally disturbed by that. That
Mm-hmm.
is what a bully would say. And that is
Mm-hmm.
what someone who operates from a position of hate would say, as opposed to it. There's two types of people, right? Or there's lots of types of people, but if something awful happens, there's the people who relish it, and there's the people who weep over it. And the the choice has been made by so many people to be the person who enjoys or who relishes it, and relishes watching people weep over death and destruction and hurtful things. And it's in comedy as well. Some guy got into it, and I never let trolls get me, but some guy was talking about how anti woke comedy became so popular. And he said it's because, and it was a white guy on the internet saying, well, I got tired of watching five, uh, you know, comedians in a
Lesbian.
row talk about their immigrant family problems, all the same hack joke. So that's why anti woke comedy became so appealing. It's like, oh, so you got tired of hearing other people's stories, so you embraced hate language,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
And
weird. And it's like there was a picture of like I don't know 4 or 5 comics who were at the inauguration party,
yes.
and I was like, oh, I can count how many times they've made me laugh on one finger, if you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right?
And
You know what I mean? Like,
there was a weird switch there too.
mm-hmm.
Like I know some of those guys, and I was like, wait a minute, what happened here? Like I seriously wonder if there is a hypnotist or an MK Ultra or something happening like that, because that was like, you're not the anarchist anymore. Isn't comedy about I'd never join a group that would have me as a member? You just joined the group. You just became the I don't know. It's really surprising. In the singers, I was like, how did Snoop Dogg go from I hate
Well,
this
Snoop,
guy?
yeah, Snoop Dogg's never been on everybody's team, by the way. I don't think. I mean,
Well,
Snoop
he
Dogg's
was
always
there.
been about getting the bag and making the money.
Well, it could
Um,
be, but there are tapes of him scolding. Who's gonna sing at your inauguration from the last one? Like he really hated him, and now he's there. Like it's not even making sense to me how somebody can flip that fast and not
oh,
feel like they got to say, okay, here's why, or something like I don't get it. It's maybe I'm stubborn, but
well, I think it's for me. I don't want to compartmentalize it, but for me that it seems there's especially in comedy, because I mean that's what I can speak on. There's people who the only thing they care about is clicks, views, and cash.
yeah,
Clicks and cash. That's all they care about. And whether it's some of these comedians who now have like some of the most popular podcasts in the world somehow, and they play dumb, they act like they're stupid, kind of. And it's like all they care about is clicks and cash. They don't care about spreading hatred.
Hmm.
spreading misogyny or neo-Nazism or racism or transphobia. They don't care about that. They care about making their bag,
Yeah.
making the clicks and cash. That's all they care about. And certain people who care about clicks and cash, they're very methodical in the way they planned out their careers, and they will make whatever move is necessary in that moment to capitalize. Like if being super liberal was paying people big bucks right now, those same guys would be trying to do that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
acting like they're super progressive guys, and they're not. And some of them are just bad at comedy, like just like yeah, we don't have to get into naming names here, but some of them are just the worst
Yeah.
at comedy you've ever seen in your life anyway. But um, in my opinion, I'll say that because comedy is subjective. But I think there's lots of types of comedy, and I don't think all comedy has to be some subversive attack against the structure, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Well, if you're even if you're saying this, aren't these commercials stupid? That's still anarchy on on a very
sure,
small level,
exactly.
on a safe level. Yeah.
But being part of, being, I mean, who, I don't think anybody ever grows up and thinks I want to be a populist comedian.
Well,
I want to be a comedian who, you know, makes fun of the people who are the most vulnerable.
yeah, I want to be punching down. I feel like Bill Burr is like he's having. So Bill Burr, I always thought was great, but there was a little bit too much for me. And he's got married, he's got a kid now, and he's doing work on himself. It's very clearly, but he's really funny politically on Luigi. And he came out and it was just brilliant about, I think the fires have been managed well, and everybody applauds. And he goes, but some guy on the internet sitting there in his underwear is like, I don't think the fire's being managed right. And I thought it was so hysterical because everybody is sure they know what happened there. We don't know what happened there. Maybe it was mismanaged, but certainly everyone making comments does not know, or they heard Tucker Carlson say it, so they went along with it. But some guy was like, yeah, he used to be funny and now he's too woke. And I was like,
I mean,
when
there's no bigger compliment in my life than to be called that, in my opinion.
that, or that
Um,
you used to be funny. Yeah, I started screaming at someone on Facebook when he said he voted for Trump because he was sick of woke politics. And I was like, tell me one way that anything woke affected your life. Did you lose a job? Did you lose a friend? Did you tell me one way? No answer. No answer. They watch it on Fox and that's it.
yeah, and I mean, I've been in situations that I don't even like to talk about publicly, really, where people in my life are like, you just don't see white people on TV anymore, and you're just like, what the and I'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about right
Mm-hmm.
now? You're this is a you're already you're halfway down the slippery slope into becoming a fucking Nazi. Like
Yeah.
what? And then they're like, what are you talking about? No, I'm just saying blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no, no. I'm not gonna, you're not gonna bait me into this shit. Or, I think they inflated the Holocaust numbers, blah, blah, blah. It's
Uh,
like, no, we're not getting into that shit. We're not fucking getting into this. I refuse to go down those paths.
you don't want high school girls to sports be all men, do you?
There's less than 10 NCAA athletes that are trans out
I
of the 50,000 or
that's
something.
and all 10 of them are Fox News's favorite topics. It makes me crazy. It's not, they're going to school and coming home with a sex change. I can't even the fact that anyone believes that, I can't even.
Yeah, there was an interesting clip of I think it was like one of the president of the NCAA or something in front of Congress. Did you see that clip?
Mm-mm.
Where they're talking, a congressman was asking him how many trans athletes are in NCAA athletics, and he said 10 or less than 10 actually. Uh, and then he goes, and then the guy from the NCAA goes, the biggest issue in college athletics is the the brutal and violent harassment of female athletes, that they are exposed to through the internet, social media, things like that, and through like threats that they see that are public. And he goes, and we don't even see the ones that are private messaged, which are outnumber the public ones. And it is a terrifying thing to go through and read and see what these female athletes are exposed to. Meanwhile, the world's outrage is focused on 10 kids who don't identify as the gender that the world has told them they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everybody wants to focus on instead of the huge problem that's very serious and very real. But it's not as
Glamorous or
glamorous, right?
yeah. So I just watched something where Candace Owens is deciding who's trans, deciding that in France Macron's wife is used to be a guy, and then she's found pictures, and and it's like,
Well,
is
this
this,
is not new, right? This is
I think,
there's still people who say that Michelle Obama is a man,
yes,
which is just really old school racism on top
and
of everything else.
yes, and that's really, people are watching this, and she's
Caitlin
putting
Clark
the
is a man.
pieces
I've heard that.
together. Yeah, I can't.
Uh, Caitlin Clark is a man because there's
Yeah,
no way a woman could be that good at basketball. She's a man. She's a man. She is. And it's like, well, can you prove that she's a man?
yeah, yeah.
She's just a man. And it's like, oh, okay, there's your proof.
Look at her jaw. Look at her.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. The I don't know, but it's like, luckily there's a lot of people out there who are smarter than me and I can learn things from.
Mm-hmm.
Like a guy addressing the DEI stuff on the internet. He was like, okay, well, inherently the idea that that white people are more qualified. Finally we can get the most qualified person into the job, which launches from the idea that inherently white people are more qualified for the job.
Yeah, yeah,
But people don't. Someone was really brilliant in the way they said, affirmative action doesn't, because there's poor white people out there, but no one has ever been, no one in this country has ever had their life made more difficult by being white. It's
yeah.
not that they didn't necessarily get an extra advantage in something that was given to them or provided for them, but it's not about that. It's about their life wasn't made more difficult than it already is because of the color of their skin.
When I was a temp in Hollywood, of all places, lefty Hollywood, I worked at so many places, no female CEOs, none. And even in higher positions, it's just like, I don't, DEI, I'm not even that familiar with the program. Men will keep women and black people out. White men will keep them out. It's uncomfortable. I don't know what to say. If we all want to go golfing, I don't know if those people golf. They will keep them out.
I mean, history has proven as such, unless they're forced not to.
Yeah, yeah. And when someone just no, I go, okay, then why are there no very few female or black CEOs? Is it that you think they're dumber than white people? Why do you think? Yeah, it makes me crazy.
It's wild. And everyone thought racism was solved 25 years ago for some reason.
I
Uh, because there was a
didn't do
one
nothing.
because
I
there
didn't
was
do
one
anything.
black hockey player and everyone's like, we did it.
Yeah.
There's a black guy playing hockey. We did it, everybody. We
Oh,
and then
yes.
like yeah. But the good news is there's ways out of this. And I think that we will get there. And people will connect to their passion.
Yes, do
They'll
a
connect to their abilities.
to passion.
We'll understand because a lot of these problems I think dissolve when we realize that we are not our physical bodies, right? We are not
Mm-hmm.
a male body, a female body, a white body, a Latino body, a black body. Like once we understand that these bodies are nothing, truly nothing in the big scheme of actually our reality and our existence, they become so meaningless, right?
Yep. Yeah. And also, I kind of feel like there's a so there's this tape I watched that was really good, and it was about I kind of feel like this is another is about the Marilyn Monroe effect. And the woman said Marilyn Monroe was the last sensualist. So everything was about her, not in a selfish way, but it wasn't about like, I'm talking to this guy, is he looking, does he think I'm fat? Is my skin? And she was in the moment. She was the person in the moment. Am I comfortable here? And, that kind of thing. And I think that is to take the self-consciousness out and just be. They said people always talk about getting a higher frequency. They tested everything. It had the highest frequency of all: authenticity. If someone was an asshole being an asshole, they had a higher frequency than everybody that was trying to do other shit, that was praying and stuff like that. you know
That's funny.
Authenticity.
Just be authentic. And
Yeah.
um even if you're an asshole, be authentic for God's sake.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, this has been great. Um,
Always great talking to you, Ryan.
Karen, I roped her into to finish off anniversary week, even though she was very busy. I got her in here, and I think we got to the bottom of it. We figured it out.
We
We
did
solved
it.
comedy. We solved evolution of spirit and soul. We disclosed the truth about existence and reality. And don't forget, Paranormal Karen. You can find it everywhere. I've been actually like doing a lot of YouTube podcasts
Oh,
lately.
Aggie, I'm my big following is on TikTok. And by the way, if anybody's in Scranton area this weekend, I am at the Mohegan Sun at Wisecrackers. Psychic Stand Up is there. But I am getting so turned off by, there was all those media guys right there. And everyone can tell me that Meta didn't buy TikTok, but something happened under his influence. I think we're going to find that out. I would love to get people over Substack. I got to get a Substack. That's where
I just set up my Substack like 3 days ago.
you're ahead of me. Just like on the podcast, you're like years ahead of me. I think if there's a way to drive people over to Substack, that is going to be the last free speech.
I'm on Blue Sky and Substack. I'll be getting off Instagram and Facebook sometime here in the very near future. I mean, I got like 53 people on my Blue Sky
Yeah, Blue Sky,
right
mine is
now.
low too. I like it. But
But Blue
that
Sky
tick,
is going to also launch a video photo app. I think it's going to be called shoot, I forget the name, but that's coming as well. And we'll be
okay.
able to leave Zuckerberg behind.
Yeah.
Uh did you see the thing about his lawyer, how his lawyer left? There's an ongoing like lawsuit that Meta's involved in,
Well,
and the lawyer for Meta left citing Zuckerberg's toxic his slide into toxic masculinity and neo-Nazism. He's cited as the reasons to um, stop being his counsel. I'm
you
pretty
know,
sure.
isn't he Jewish?
I, it's I don't know the answer to that.
That's
Well,
the that's the
it's
worst slide into Nazism
yeah, I
from me.
think like the self-hating Jewish person who, yeah, I mean, because well,
Wants
yeah, the huh, who knows, but yeah, I mean, and all the studies have already shown that social media is poison. So
Well, I yeah, we got to figure out a new way to promote. But my new joke is about forgiveness, and that they say it's harder to forgive someone than to put their dick pic on Twitter. But I go, we don't respect forgiveness. We're not gonna name a football team. If we respected forgiveness, we have like the New York Forgivers. That's not masculine, like Mark
yeah,
Zuckerberg. That's not.
the Los Angeles
Yeah.
second chances. The
But yeah, he's a monster. I bet you anything we're gonna find out he did buy TikTok, and he's the reason it's ruined now.
Is it ruined now? Like I don't know.
It
I've
is.
only ever had 1,000 followers on there, so I don't know what it.
So I have like 100,000 or 106,000, something like that. And what would come up on my feed was everything, even the crazy conspiracies. So the other day, I really spent the day finding out how I could become a New Zealand citizen. And but a guy from New Zealand posted something like saying, I can't believe how dumb Americans are. They don't know what tariffs are. And there was thousands of comments. And I put on one of the threads, I wrote, yes, I'm with you. I can't believe how stupid Americans are. Can I come with you? And it got flagged for community guidelines with thousands of comments. That got flagged. Yet every time somebody puts up a fake of me, they won't take it down. So it's now you're being monitored. In fact, I don't like a lot of things anymore because they're going to look at my algorithms and be like, oh, we know she's on what side.
Well, there's a woman who was a rocket scientist in Huntsville, Alabama, who, well, rocket, I don't know if rocket science is the right word. Anyway, she was a brilliant genius scientist. She's been dead for a couple of years. They say suicide. Everyone thinks it was murder. She was going to disclose anti-gravity. She
Mm.
has a 3-hour video where she talks about um, all kinds of things because it was never supposed to go public, but it was one of the last times she's been recorded talking before she died. Um, but she talks about monitoring and how, if you're a scientist working on stuff in Huntsville, Alabama, and Rocket City, there's 5,000 foreign national spies there, and the city
Mm.
only has some over 100,000 people. So it's insane because there's so
And
many
those were all
rocket
my
scientists there.
fans, is the
Yeah,
spot.
right. And so, but she's talking about like monitoring, and she goes, they don't care about your data. They've got your data. It's your personal stuff. That's what is used against you. And so I watched that, and as I was listening to it, I was just deleting all these photos off my phone. Just like I don't want anything on my phone anymore. I'm just gonna get a flip phone, I think. um
I did watch a guy though that was a pretty I can't remember, he's a computer guy, and he said, but I think the algorithm, it is the personal data, but I think the algorithm, they can find us pretty fast. They can, you know what I mean? If you are all anti-Trump, guess who knows, you know what I mean? They can even go flag that account, pull her comments. But this guy said you can't wipe things away, but you can throw them off by having Google search weird things every day. Make sure the algorithm doesn't know what you're doing. Look up elephant's feet today, and bipartisan hair growth tomorrow, whatever. And I thought that's kind of smart.
that's
Um,
interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm gonna see the weirdest things I can Google right now as soon as we, although I
yeah,
use the Brave browser, which I'd like to think is more private, but um
I thought Signal was, and then they said it wasn't. But although I do have to say, for a joke, I Googled the other day different types of bombs, and I thought that wasn't smart. She's a she's a liberal antitrust Googling what types of bombs.
what types of bombs? I won't even say it. What I was gonna say, I won't even say. Um, it's uh, years ago I did that at the library, like 25 years ago. I was like, I'm gonna get put on a list. So I checked out the book, How to Start a Revolution, some communist book, and then a book about the history of the militia, all at the same time. And I was like, I'm gonna see if they put me on a list because I did.
Did they?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they did,
I
but
got on a
I was
list.
like, I wonder if I can get put on a list if trying to find the right combo of things to get put on a list. But yeah,
I got on a list, and when 9/11 hit, they held all my mail until I had to go in and find out why. Because years ago, I used to have a business card that said Karen Rontowski, President of the United States. And then I had it as address, and the secret, so mailman turned me in the Secret Service, and the Secret Service was not kind about it. They were like, you can't do that. And they came after me, kind of. It was weird. But then after 9/11, I think the list got a little less. But at 9/11, I was like, why isn't my mail coming? And they were like, you're on a list. So it doesn't take much.
wow,
And
I had
by
no
the
idea that
way,
you were on a list.
the joke the joke about the bombs was that I was just trying to tell a joke that I used to work for the CIA, but just when they needed Christmas help wrapping things, and I wrapped a lot of bombs, and like,
I mean, if you knew how well Karen could tie a bow,
especially around a grenade.
it's very hard because there's no corners.
Right.
Okay, Karen, I gotta let. Okay, thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Happy
Paranormal Karen is the
anniversary.
podcast. Check out the Patreon. Get a tarot reading for God's sake. Uh, I mean, you deserve it. You deserve it. I'm telling you, friends, you deserve it. I mean, they're incredible readings. Can't wait to see you again, buddy. And
You too, my friend. As this
yeah,
summer, we got to do something
yeah, for sure. And we'll talk again soon.
in our hats. Oh, it looked better this way. Why didn't I wear it like this? Okay,
Uh-oh.
bye.
Bye.
This way. Why didn't I wear it like this? Okay,
Uh-oh.
bye.
Bye.